All right, we'll call in November meeting of the JMRL Library Board of Trustees to order. First thing we need to do is do a remote participation confirmation. You had text
Yes.
conveniently displayed. Somebody like to make a motion? Part two there.
I move that Alita Childs requested to attend today's meeting of the JMRL Board remotely due to a personal matter, specifically travel out of state, be approved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And we don't see more.
No.
Okay.
Can we?
I really thought I heard her talking before, so
Yeah.
I think we maybe should just go ahead and.
Yeah. Okay.
You want to
check the
read it?
box, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure, I move that Martha Ledford's request to attend today's meeting of the JMRL Board remotely due to a temporary or permanent disability or other medical condition that prevents her physical attendance be approved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Thank you all. Next item, the minutes of our October meeting. Everybody have a chance to take a look at them. In addition, comments, suggestions? Not, motion to approve them as submitted.
I'll move to approve it as submitted.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Cool. All right. So announcements before we get started. Any announcements? Okay.
Actually, now's probably a good time to introduce Camille Thompson, branch manager of the Gordon Avenue Library,
Hey, Camille.
There's a place I should stand.
wherever you like.
I'll just stand right in the.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Camille Thompson. I'm the branch manager here at Gordon Avenue Library. I just wanted to welcome you and let you know that at the end, if you'd like a tour of the building, I will be here and I'm happy to show you around, especially to show you our new drive up service window. That we're going to start service next week.
Thanks, Camille.
All right, public comments. Do we have any public comments online? David?
If anybody online would like to make public comment, please use the Zoom raise hand function now.
Going once?
Anybody interested in public comments?
If not, anybody in the room, public comments? And if not, we'll move on to our third item, which is Brittany Eversberg going to tell us about JMRL delivery services.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. So my name is Brittany. I am the Circulation Services Manager for JMRL. I directly supervise delivery, the front desk and central, and oversee all of circulation. So we're going to go through Truck Trek today. A brief snapshot of JMRL's delivery services. And this has kind of changed over time since I've been here as we add more fun things like learning kits and stuff like that. We have 2 employees right now in our delivery department, and they're both full-time. 2 trucks purchased by JMRL. We hope to purchase a 3rd truck in the near future. We have service 7 days a week, and 1 day is just donations. It's supervised by me. The drivers have a cell phone for emergencies, and vehicle maintenance and costs are facilitated by the City of Charlottesville and JMRL's Equipment Fund. Are there any questions about this synopsis?
Would the third truck be a backup or would we be wanting to run 3 full-time employees?
That's a good question. So that would probably mean our oldest truck would shift in use and kind of be the backup.
Okay.
They get a lot of wear and tear, as you'll see later on in the presentations.
Yeah, the primary goal is to replace the oldest one there with a newer vehicle because they're starting to show their age.
Yeah.
So it's not an expansion of
No.
we're
Correct.
running 3 routes. Great, thanks.
A couple different changes. The expansion of the 30-hour-a-week position to 40 has been a huge and welcome change for the department. This is the first time we've had 2 full-time drivers, and it's been very helpful. We also have truck trackers that have been installed in both vehicles that the couriers use. They're through Verizon Connect and they really are quite handy. Staff can log in and see where the truck is, and that helps them kind of plan when to get the carts and stuff ready for delivery. And to know when to kind of expect them. It also helps if we have like a vehicle maintenance issue to know where somebody is. That was one of the primary reasons I was really happy to have this. So as I said, we've kind of incorporated different things over time. And so it really isn't just books. As you all learned at one of your other continuing eds recently, we have the learning kits. We've got toys. This is actually a picture of the first toys that went out a few years ago at Central. I felt like Santa taking the picture. We also circulate these journals where people can write their thoughts, community journals. We also do supplies, equipment. The mail between the branches goes through delivery as well. Donations, and there's always something more. So I'll add that. Any questions about all the things that we're circulating and going through the truck?
Don't, I have one about donations come here and they come to Northside, right? Or
So
do all the branches take, okay,
all the branches.
and then you bring them all here, okay.
So this is one of the most frequently asked questions I get about delivery is like, when is it the heaviest? So summer is like our Super Bowl. That is going to be the heaviest because people are traveling, kids are home from school, and there's a lot of reading to be done. The week between Christmas and New Year's is also busy because people are getting the audiobooks and things for vacations, and they're home and they're placing lots of holds. And also when we have the volume can shift from day to day depending on, you know, a lot of our branches are closed on Sundays, for example, except Central. We don't run the pick list. So Monday is our heaviest pick list day. Therefore, Tuesday's going to be one of our heaviest days, with the exception of 3-day weekends. And Northside easily has the most donations. That's the other question I get. At least 50 to 60 boxes per week. We have a very supportive community. This is the typical route schedule. So we begin at Central, go to Green, Louisa, Scottsville, Nelson. Yeah. Gordon got clipped off of the image. So yeah, we go from Central to Gordon. And then we loop back. So that's the typical route.
But with both trucks, do they do the same route?
So that's a good question. So we generally will have both drivers helping with the route. If there's donations to pick up or other things to, you know, like equipment to put together or specific supplies that need to be taken to a branch, that will be a one driver delivery route day and the other driver will take the truck and go do those other things. It just also depends on whether the other truck's available. Because they get so much use, we have a lot of maintenance and back and forth. So the trucks go on approximately 190 miles a day. Hence the fact we're hoping to get a new truck. And that's a snapshot of the loop as well. Any questions?
I think last time Brittany was in front of the board, it led to the board asking for changing that second part-time position into a full-time position. So Brittany, this is your chance. Anything you need besides a new truck?
I think, you know, just having 2 full-time drivers has been extremely helpful. And it really does mean that we're able to do projects that need to be done faster. So we're very appreciative of that. I can't think of anything else except a new truck.
How much does each of those bins weigh?
Between 50 and 100 pounds.
Thanks.
Yeah, and it depends on what's in there. Books are
Yeah, sure.
heavy. But we also put like printer cartridges and different things in there too. So the weight may vary.
How do holds that go to and from the bookmobile, how does that interact with the truck route? Or does it just kind of go pick up centrally from
Well, so,
some location?
you know, the bookmobile headquarters is at Northside. So we just put them in the bookmobile office and they handle the holds that way. And the pick list is picked up from the bookmobile, just like every branch. It's
So, yeah.
treated like a branch because it is.
Yeah, it's like
treated
it's like an ad, well, but for physical location purposes, it's like an
Yeah.
adjunct of Northside, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's its own branch with the pick list and things like.
Got it.
And holds and such. Hi, Martha. Any other questions?
I was curious if, what's the sort of normal time between when someone places a hold and if the item's on a shelf, you know, from the time it gets from that shelf to the branch that they've requested?
That's a good question. So I like to say 2 to 4 business days. Generally, is there faster than that, but if we need more time to find it, that gives us the padding to do so.
Brittany mentioned using an insider lingo, the pick list. So that's the list of books every morning. Like these are the things people are waiting for. So it kind of depends on when you put it on hold too. If you request something right after they finish that, then you won't get it
Yeah.
pulled until the next time, then it'll wait till the next day's delivery. So sometimes it's less than 24 hours where it's at the next branch, but 2 to 4 days is probably the safer.
Yeah.
Answer.
Yeah, and people are very happy when they're faster than they anticipated. So that works out.
And
you s-
I'm sorry, go ahead, Alina.
You work, the trucks go 7 days a week, did you say?
Yes.
Even though
Yes.
most of the libraries are not open, they have special delivery points or something?
Yes, the delivery itself is 6 days a week. And we reserve 1 day to pick up donations. We get so
Oh,
many
okay.
donations at some of our branches that we need to have that time allotted to clear the rooms. So that's what, you know, and it also means if we only have 1 truck that's available because the other one's in for maintenance, it makes for easier scheduling. And people know when to expect that. But delivery itself is 6 days a week.
Okay.
So the 7th day is full-time?
The 7th day is just to pick up donations.
I mean, but hourly, is it?
It's a full day.
It's
Yeah,
a full day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It takes a good 8 hours.
Mhm.
And just to remind the board, when Brittany's talking about getting a new truck, that is an equipment fund purchase, so it is not reflected in the budget that you all are going to be reviewing today. It'll be reviewed in the spring when we start talking about equipment needs. That's money that JMRL has collected largely from fines and fees that gets expended on equipment. And it's not a cost for the local jurisdiction, so it's not part of the budget discussion today, but it will be in the spring.
Any other questions?
We're allowed to wave at the truck as it goes by, right?
Absolutely.
Thank you, Brittany.
Thank you, Brittany.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. I would
There's no substitutes.
like to make a small change to the agenda, and like the fact it might need to be, or we could move old business up to now, so we could talk about the budget, which important issue, not that the other issues aren't important, but I would like to make sure that we get the budget approved. So if there are no objections, we do old business first. And if there are objections, well,
Can we do the budget committee report
yes, thank you.
first?
Yes, let's do the budget committee report first, followed by discussion and potential vote on the budget. Thank you, Dave.
You're welcome.
Okay. Budget report, huh? Okay, the budget committee met earlier this month, and the proposed budget was actually part of the documents that were and reports that were to be collected and that you could review online. So David is going to give us an overview and answer any questions that you might have about the proposed budget.
I think the key point, Alita, is that the budget committee is recommending this budget for the board to
Right.
vote on.
Mhm.
Okay, I will share then in your handouts and available publicly. There's a copy of the proposed fiscal year 25 budget for JMRL. Or the scroll here. One thing to note are differences between the budget that was submitted by the committee earlier this month and the budget that's in your handouts to be voted on today. I emailed you that difference, but just to highlight it there, that we did get a ceiling number of an increase in medical costs for staff from the city of Charlottesville. So this budget has a 3.6% increase in medical costs that was not there. That information was not available when the budget committee met. And that's a total increase of $36,450 from what the budget committee discussed earlier in the month. But that's not something that's negotiable. That's what JMRL will have to pay there. They did call that the ceiling, so there is a chance that that number would come down some and it would be a smaller impact on our 5 jurisdictions, but my experience has been they have never come back down from a number that's been given. And then there had to be an increase in the contributions for bookmobile service of $1,500 each for Louisa and Nelson to account for some non-personnel operational costs, which is basically gas and maintenance for the bookmobiles for next year. So that number on the grid sheet, which is on page 9 of your handouts. At bookmobile for each Louisa and Nelson, it's $7,772, which is about $1,500 more than the budget committee discussed earlier in the month. Okay, so overall operating expenses are very stable between fiscal year 24 and this potential 25 budget. It's a 0.2% increase, very small changes operationally, except for in personnel. That's where the changes are basically. Total increase is 4.8% over last year's budget. We've discussed this plan with the staff from our jurisdictional partners during the annual pre-budget meeting. They're facing similar issues in recruiting and retention of personnel. This budget only includes 2 of the operational requests that JMRL's managers requested that the personnel committee passed along to the budget committee, and the budget committee is passing along to you all. And that was for 100 additional substitute hours at Louisa. It's about $1,600. For 100 more hours for them to use on staff coming in throughout the year. And upgrading a position at Green from a children's specialist to a young adult librarian and making it full-time. It's a 32-hour position currently. They're looking for a 40-hour position. And that is about $20,500. So those are the only new additions to the budget. Everything else to the personnel budget from last year, everything else is just strictly increases in medical costs. And then the proposed increases in salary. So as a reminder, the proposal there is a 2% COLA, a cost of living adjustment for all staff. And then either a 3% raise or a 5% raise for eligible staff based on years of service. So that would be 3% for staff who have been at JMRL for under 8 years, 5% for staff that have been at JMRL for over 8 years. So the total potential increases are either 5% or 7% for staff. So that's what's worked into the budget that you're seeing now. We'll review this grid sheet here at the top. Can everybody see this on the screen? See better. At the top are the shared regional costs. These are the costs that all 5 jurisdictions share in to keep JMRL running. They are divided by a 3-year average of circulation percentages. So Albemarle is at 60.7% for the average of the last 3 years of use of JMRL. Charlottesville at 24.4, Green at 5.85, Louisa 5.07, Nelson 4.33. So the costs there are largely for administration and technical services, and then 10% of reference services. So the total costs there for the regional costs are about $2.14 million. Then we go down branch by branch. The first 3 are shared Charlottesville, Albemarle locations. So they share operational costs based on a 3-year average of the circulation between those jurisdictions at each location. So at Central, it's 57% Albemarle, 42% Charlottesville. The total cost there is $1.8 million. For Gordon, it's about 50-50, 49.29, 50.71 for Charlottesville. Total cost of $551,000. North side, it's 78%, Albemarle 21%, Charlottesville 2.2 million. Everything else is a local cost for that jurisdiction. So Scottsville's cost of $248,000 for operational costs are in Albemarle only. Jose's $594,134 are Albemarle only. Louisa's $314,276 is Louisa only. Nelson's $279. Nelson, Green's $300. and $893 is Green's cost. Bookmobile costs are split largely 80-20 between Charlottesville and Albemarle, and then the additional hours that were added last year to bring Friday service twice a month to Louisa and Nelson. Charlottesville Albemarle cost split for the Historical Society collections and Mont Ave. You can see the total for 24 is 8.5 million. We're looking at 8.93 million, an increase of $400,000, 4.8%. It's about a 4.8% increase for Albemarle, 3.9% increase for Charlottesville, 7.2% for Green, which is because of that additional cost to add that, to upgrade that position and add 8 hours to it. 5.8% for Louisa, 5.9% for Nelson. Okay, then the rest of the budget, the next page is the entire budget. So here's every category that we use to track spending throughout the year. It was what was actually spent in fiscal year 23, what the 24 budget is, and what we're proposing for 25. The budget committee reviewed this, looked through, asked questions. I will entertain any questions any board members have now. After that, go ahead.
We know the city's kind of bottom line on health insurance. I can't remember, do we know the Albemarle County's health insurance?
We don't, but the JMRL contracts with the city to offer that benefit, so only the cities
Oh, so that's
matters.
the only-
Yeah, that's the only cost, and that healthcare is what's provided to all JMRL employees regardless of where they're at. After that, each page is a separate branch or department. So it breaks down same situations, what was actually spent in 23, what the 24 budget is, and what the 25 budget is proposed. And you can see what the percent changes are there. Also, thank you to Jerry Carchidi for a lot of hard work on putting this budget together. He's also here for when I say something wrong or need clarification. And it goes branch by branch. Largely, the increases are in personnel everywhere, 3.9% here. We need more operational costs to run the bookmobile because of the greater service area it's now covering. Historical Society, it's strictly operation. You can see that 7%. That's the raise for somebody who's been at the library for more than 8 years if it gets approved. Central library costs, 7% on the salaries and benefits, about 3% increase in operational costs.
Are we getting rid of telephone lines? Is that what's been done?
Why the cost of telephone lines are going down? Yeah, Kayla has identified some that we have cut over the years. But I think this is likely. I'm not sure. Jerry, do you have an answer for slightly cheaper phones?
Well, it's supposed to go down 44.6.
We did make that change with the E-rate reimbursement. I don't think okay, that's what it is on this. So we have it accounted. In the past, we accounted for that as revenue. It really should be a refunded expenditure. David's the expert at explaining exactly what E-rate is for those who don't, but we're just treating it differently in the correct way from an accounting basis.
Oh, got it.
So this is funding that we would get back from the federal government for telco charges, basically. And in the past, we had said, oh, that's new money coming in. But the correct way is to say it's actually less that we're spending out. Now what they do, I think, Jerry, is they take it off of the top of the telephone company. Instead of giving us money back, they just charge us 80% of the
Charge you
funds.
less.
Actually, no. We would continue to get
Full charge.
revenue for one annual check, we'll call it. And we would count it as revenue. It really should be. It all washes out, but accounting wise, just shows up where it should as an expense. As a refund, so-called refunded expenditure.
Oh, okay.
Credit to our.
does that make
You're
sense?
taking it out of a bucket.
It
putting
doesn't
in
come
a
out,
bucket.
it doesn't show up on the monthly phone bill, it's just one lump sum here.
Yeah, this is part of the overall cleanup project that Jerry's been working on about revenue coming in and making sure that it's identified in the correct place there. So this is a relatively small place, but instead of just kind of all lumping it in and say, oh, look, there's money coming in, it's
Oh,
like this came from.
I was
phones,
just
this came
curious,
from
because
there.
UVA has been at this whole announcement, we're all gonna have Zoom phones.
Oh, no more landlines. Yeah.
Yes, give up your phone,
We-
but I think that would probably be not very good,
Yeah,
like, we're set, reference desk.
There's still a charge for that, even if you were to do that, and we are required to have POTS lines in all of our locations for copper telephone lines
Yep.
for fire alarm service
Mhm.
and also for elevators. The safety button that you hit there needs a copper.
It's a window. Fall.
Okay, good question. Jose costs, increase in personnel, slight decrease on the operational end. But you'll see the trend here. It's what we're asking for is an increase in salary for staff. And that's where the increase is at every location. Gordon Avenue, 4% for staff, $3,000 more for operating expenses. That's utilities. Jerry's also tracking down that we're paying more for utilities recently at these two locations. County has that large increase. Martha's still there. She was asking about it. That's because of the 32-hour to 40-hour, and it's an increase in pay in that position to go from a specialist position to a librarian position.
And my recall from the personnel committee is that then it's up to Green County if they want to go on those hours.
Yeah. Yeah, if Green County would have to agree that they would fund that individual increase there. If not, then this would come down by that increase. But it would come down to about where every other one is, which still has,
Right.
you know,
Salary increase.
a salary increase and a medical increase. Savings on the admin side and personnel and a slight increase in
With the
operation.
retirement of the Green County Library, that expense could probably go down because don't go with the experience of the incoming.
We do, so it depends
that-
on. It depends on who gets hired and what happens there, but there'll be some variance. It'll change
Yeah, so that might even out,
potentially.
yeah,
Yeah.
potential.
This is the $25,000 that comes out of state aid to buy materials to process books. So it's like every year, it's always $25,000, although in 23 they overspent, I see. Louisa County, no change operationally. The only change is in additional costs for salary and benefits. Excuse me. Same at Montav. Stop me if you've heard this one before. Same at Nelson County, the increases in personnel, no changes operationally. North side, slight decrease in rent. This is a best guess at this point because the rent is tied to the CPI there. So that can fluctuate. And they overestimated last year, the county did, when it was this time of year and we were looking for figures. Rent ended up being a bit cheaper than we thought it would be. Now we're estimating it's going to be a little bit under what the budgeted number from last year was.
Is the county charging the county rent?
The county is charging the county in order to recoup the operational costs that the city pays into as well. So they take care of the cleaning contract and the maintenance and things like that. They charge that back so that we can charge the city 20% of it so that they can get costs there. $5% increase in Scottsville, slight decrease operationally of $30.
Next. Yep.
4.5%. This one's not highlighted, but here's the. Jerry, you see that?
Yes.
Need a yellow highlighting. This is the anticipated state aid for next year. Minus that 25,000, which will go towards the processing materials. Okay. Questions about the budget as recommended by the budget committee?
Good debate. Lot of hard work we need to do.
Yeah, thank you to the personnel committee and the budget committee.
And thank you, Jerry.
And thank you, Jerry. I'll remind everybody of the process here. The board's gonna vote. If they adopt this, then later this week, I will start sending information out to each jurisdiction with their breakdown of their increases and kind of an explanation similar to what I just gave you all, but very specific to each of the 5 jurisdictions. And then we will attempt to schedule meetings between myself, a trustee, and the jurisdictional staff, sometimes elected officials as well, if they're interested. And those generally happen between now and mid-January. The regional agreement states that we need to present the budget to each jurisdiction by January 15th. Technically, we're going to do that this afternoon when I email it out to everybody and say, here's the budget, but it's good to sit down and to talk through it with them and to answer any questions. So that will require some of your time and scheduling, especially those that are in single jurisdictions, because
You're it.
it'll be you. Yeah, in the 2 larger jurisdictions, it'll be 2 of the 3 trustees. We'll sit down with staff and just review the budget and what JMRL's needs are for next year.
Any questions? If not, I believe we would like to entertain a motion to approve the budget as submitted by the budget committee.
Some
Kathy has moved. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. Now the hard work begins.
That's right. Get somebody else.
Yeah. All right, great. Thank you, everybody. All right, let's back up to committee appointments and reports. And first on the list is the Central Renovation Working Group.
So I will talk about that. A few things changed from the last time I reported in the county, in particular, Jane Kulo and David spoke with Mike Pruitt, who's the incoming Scottsville representative about the Central Library project, and I was told he was, very enthusiastic about it. There is a meeting with B. LaPresto Kirtley, right?
Yes, Friday this week.
And then my understanding, Mike, is you and Jane are scheduling a meeting down.
That's on tap for this week also, I think.
Oh, great. So that's really important that we touch base with everybody in the county. In the city, we've already met with Brian Pinkston, Juan Diego Wade, Natalie Oshran, who's the incoming new city councilor. And David has spoken to Lloyd, although we haven't met with him specifically. So the only person we haven't met with is Michael Payne, and we've requested meetings with him several times, but we just haven't met with him. But David's met with Sam Sanders and Ashley Marshall. Sam Sanders is the new city manager in Charlottesville. And you also met with the county.
Yeah, Jeff Richardson, the county executive in Albemarle County.
So the next step, I mean, it's still, they just want to hear more from the public. So the Central Renovation Committee is going to meet soon. And we really just need to develop a campaign to get the word out. Both articles in the local publications, letter writing campaign, having people speak in front of the Board of Supervisors. I think that's one of the issues is, they haven't heard from enough people about this. This is a central service of the government, actually. It's different from other, nonprofits, in my opinion, but they want to hear more. So that's, I think, the goal and one of the things that we really need to move forward fairly quickly.
The only thing I have to add since you and I last talked was that the city of Charlottesville did put out a draft CIP that does not include this project. It includes mention of it towards the end where it says this, needs to be discussed with Albemarle County. So they're at the same kind of waiting point between the two bodies where they would have to decide together that it's time to move forward. And I'm going to submit written comment for the Planning Commission's meeting in Charlottesville tomorrow, where they're going to get a first peek It's a working group, so there is no public comment, but then there's a public hearing on January 9th on the CIP. So I think that it would behoove the working group to send somebody there
Yeah.
to make some comment.
Okay. Is there anybody else have any suggestions or comments about moving forward?
I'll also say, sorry, that the 5-year plan committee, which not to step on the upcoming reports, but did spend a lot of time going through the survey that was put out in September and October. And there are quite a few comments in there about the need for a refresh and renovation of the central library. So I'll give
The public.
I'll give a fuller session to the board on what was in there, but I think there was some good meat that can be shown to elected officials to say, hey, people are asking things.
I think it's, what I understand too is sort of allyship is a really great idea. So getting people in the community that are very invested in it to, and then giving them sort of talking points of what we need them to say and
Right.
dates that you'd like them
And we
to
have
show
the
up.
talking points.
Yeah.
So I think it should happen.
Yeah.
You know, without too much.
I mean, you have the Friends of the Library, which is such an organization.
Right.
There's some of them that are passionate about this. And just getting people, you have to get them to show up because they do listen to whatever's in front of us.
Right.
On both ends, on city and Albemarle County.
That's a lot of work. Maybe. A lot of meetings.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ann. David. Your plan committee report.
All right.
I think, wait,
So we met in November and formed a small committee to try to take what we've written so far and condense it. And we are meeting next week, sometime in this early December. I don't know. I don't even know what day it is today. And then our full group will meet again in February to sort of look at what the small group comes up with and make sure it's meeting everyone's needs. We went through an exhaustive look at the survey results. And we've also read staff survey results and have tried to help infuse the strategic plan with all that information. But, I don't, spoiler alert, a lot of people really love the library. So it wasn't like we were really tripping all over some of those suggestions. And then we're hoping to get a full draft to the board in April so that you all have a chance to review it before the final review, which has to be our final vote, which is in June.
Yeah, the board should have a new strategic plan by the end of the June meeting because the current plan.
Right, we'll make sure everyone gets an earlier look-see so that we can also get comment back. But, and then when are we supplying a draft to staff? Is that sooner rather than later?
Potentially, if it's ready sooner than that, I mean, it can be concurrent with the board getting it. Everybody will need some time to.
And then just a quick reminder, we're going for a much quicker, like sort of a one-pager to sort of give everyone an idea of what our strategic plan is that would be easily looked at online and that sort of thing, as opposed to giving everyone sort of the book that we had in the past, which I think was a little harder maybe for them to see the thread. That doesn't mean that there's not also going to be a book of what will go along with this. Anyone have any questions? That was a bit muddled before Thanksgiving, after Thanksgiving.
Just on the survey, I know that closed at the end of October. And it sounds like you looked through it extensively. I know the raw products, so there's a staff survey and also the public. I know those are public documents and I'll probably request those from David to look at. But are you planning any other kind of more general publication, either of the raw or of a summarized version of here's the themes we saw from this? What access, other than asking for the raw document, will the public have to kind of understand what happened with those surveys? What came out of them?
I think what I had been thinking we will do is that I gave the committee, it was long. It was like half an hour, 45 minutes of a go through. So for the board, we'll try and have a presentation for me that'll be like 10, 15 minutes there. And they'll have a slideshow with the highlights and we'll try to post those and make sure they're available for the public so that people can go and see. And then of course the raw data will be available.
Okay,
as well.
thank you.
I'll share the raw data out before the next meeting of the full board.
A lot of it was multiple choice, so it was really easy to put into,
Yeah.
you know, pie charts or whatever.
Yeah.
But then the comments themselves.
Yeah.
Were quite.
That's where the meat is.
That's where I usually get more,
Yeah.
all these
Yeah.
surveys of all kinds. It's.
Yeah,
Yeah, we had over 1,000 just kind of free form suggestions, thoughts, comments, things like that.
Great.
Were there any overarching themes in those?
Yeah, we'll go through it next month when I've had a chance to get it ready for you, but I think we identified, you know, several key areas basically, and they were in line with what the committee had been talking about. So there's kind of renovating some facilities, access to materials. There was a lot of talk about access to digital materials versus physical materials. So definitely some themes came through in those 1,000 different freeform things. And I'll share it all with you.
and then there were some just unique individuals that have their own.
Yeah, there's always, you know, like I like this parking spot and things like that. There's always very unique, is the way to put it,
Yeah.
specific things.
Specific.
And some of those we can handle, you know, we can actually. Sometimes there are little small things. It's like, oh, that's a good idea. We can do that. We can move, you know, this shelf here. Require a strategic planning process to do that.
We were a little disappointed that we didn't get as many non-users of the library. We mostly had users of the library, even though very heroic measures were used to try to reach people. But it's a lot easier to get someone to fill out a survey about something that they use
Yeah.
than it is for someone to say like, why don't you use it?
Right.
So. But anyway, yeah, David will have a more synthesized one. We got the full.
All right, you have to.
I need to step
We're
out.
all out
Thank
of
you.
order.
I'm gonna
Thanks, Mike.
rejoin, probably just as a.
Audio?
Audio, well, the audio,
right.
but just as an observer for in a few minutes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Next up, we have, in your handouts, there is a discussion, and we're gonna have a motion about the job description revision project. David, do you want to put some background here?
Yeah, so this is something that came up unexpectedly, but in a good way. City of Charlottesville is hiring an outside group to rewrite all of their job descriptions internally. This has been a need for JMRL for a long time. It's a project that I identified with City HR 5 years ago when I started, that our job descriptions are out of date. They are kind of the storehouse for them. They are our de facto HR department. We rely on City HR to help keep them updated, and they use them to help us in hiring and performance evaluation and things like that. And for compensation planning, which is a lot of what we've been talking about, you know, both in this budget and in the personnel committee. So we first had conversations about rewriting them about 5 years ago. We have an opportunity to be included in the study that they're getting done. So an outside org will slot our job descriptions in with everybody else's, but it doesn't come without a cost there. I recommend this expenditure. We have funding to take care of that this year. It's one-time funding that we could spend this year. It's more than the $10,000 threshold, which in our bylaws, I can't make a purchase of more than that without getting board approval. So that's why we're talking about it today. If it was $9,500, I would have said, yes, let's do this. This is good for the organization. But since it's such a large amount, it's up for discussion for you all. We're gonna need to rely on City HR to support JMRL based on these, so we can't get too far afield. Or if we have a problem at a later date in which somebody, their job description doesn't match what they're actually doing, and they come back and say, an employee would say, oh, hey, you know, I'm supposed to be doing this, you're telling me to do this. We wouldn't have their support unless they were involved in this reworking together, basically. So we want to be as in sync as we can with City HR on this. We don't have our own in-house HR department. We pay for that service as part of the administrative services agreement. So I put the cost up in your handouts. Backwards, it's before the budget. Page 37, Jerry. Oh, $37,000, not page 37, page 4.
Page 4.
Yeah, so it was slightly under that. I think it was 36,000 and change, but this leaves a little wiggle room there. So
current jobs?
Yes, this is updating all of JMRL's job descriptions. So it wouldn't change any current duties. It would make sure that the descriptions that we use for advertising positions and that we use for assessments are in line with what people are actually doing.
I don't see how we can't approve that because we're trying to get the personnel situation corrected and wages, so. I don't know whether we need discussion or not.
To me, it's part of a continuum of trying to get a new compensation plan, working with the city of Charlottesville. We need to make sure that we're using language that they're approve of and are understanding, and the best way to do that is to be in step with what they're doing. Meredith?
So I'm sorry, I guess I'm a little confused. Is it the actual job description or is it the salary for the job?
It's just the job description,
For all the jobs.
all
in the
JMRL's
whole
jobs.
system.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's somewhere around 50 different job titles, basically.
And the company that's doing it, are they trying to line it up with other libraries, comparative libraries, or how are they deciding?
I
If we
think,
have like, I don't know, what is a job that we have, circulation?
yeah, like, that's a good question. And this comes up quite frequently in the library world where we're not using the same lingo and the same lexicons. You know, a position that we would call here, branch support, for example. That's just a generic position for somebody who, when you're at a small branch, you're doing a little bit of everything. You know, you're running the circulation desk. Occasionally you were helping people with computers. You're doing all sorts of things. At another library, they might call clerk, or they have positions that they called pages for a long time, which is like what we would have called shelvers. And we have shelver support now. So library to library, they don't always match up. So I'm assuming that they're going to look at the total landscape and see, you know, what are some common titles, and they might suggest title changes. But the real meat of what they're doing is nailing down what it is that each job class is responsible for. Like, here is your job. So there might be some title changes, like they're not likely to change business manager. You know, that's probably a pretty generic one there, but they might within that really nail down, like, here are the deliverables that position is responsible for.
So will they be interviewing the library staff to get that?
I think what my hope is that they will use the PDQs, which are the something P, then D, then Q. It was a very lengthy document that we had all staff fill out the year before. What is it?
Position description questionnaire.
Thank you. Is the position description questionnaires that we already used as part of the city's comp plan study a year and a half ago. So some of those will need to be tweaked. We had some unique positions that were open at that time that we'll need to go back and revisit. But in general, we had all of our branch support staff, of which there are dozens across the system, fill out those documents. And we still have those on file, and the city still has those. So I'm hoping that will be the basis for what they do. But for $36,000, they can come and ask each person individually.
Yeah, it
So
seems.
they
We've already,
rewrite the description,
They will rewrite the job descriptions.
and they may or may not use Chat GPT to.
And find out.
Okay.
yeah,
And
well, it just seems like you've done a lot of it, if you have the questionnaire.
we don't have the in-house skills or staffing to turn those into professional job descriptions. So either we go out and hire somebody to do this for us, or we go with the city and the consultant that they're using.
So this amount is just a guesstimate.
That's the quote.
I mean, they're doing it citywide.
Yes, but they carved out, we got a separate quote as part of that project
Right.
for just doing JMRLs here. And the board doesn't have to vote on this today. I think that the project starts in January, so you can table this and vote on it next month, and that would still be enough time. But it depends on,
So just to read, the benefits would be, we would be lined up then with the city and HR there.
correct.
Okay, and then another benefit would be, maybe we'd have a better chance of new jobs if we are describing them and labeling them in a way that's more consistent. Our peer institutions, was that the? other
Yeah,
one?
and internally consistent as well, you know, better descriptions, you know, when these jobs now go out into the world, they go out onto Indeed and all these websites there. So more accurate descriptions of what the job qualifications are and what the actual work to be performed is. to me, the first point that you made is the crucial one here, is that as we're getting ready to work with city HR to redesign our compensation planning over the next few years, if we go out on our own and come up with our own job descriptions, it's gonna be harder to rely on their support for something that fix this thing that we did, rather than, hey, we did this thing together, help us plan to do it right in the future. Jerry, do you have a
Yeah,
thought?
just as a clarification, slice two, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, feels a lot like limiting like outdated technology or work functions that run a mimeograph machine. Nobody knows what that is, but also technology that has evolved since the last time they were written. They can say, show people how to download movies, which didn't exist so years ago, but so those sort of things, which just, yeah, kind of what you're saying, bringing job up to date.
Duplicating machine, they don't do that.
Somebody asked me about the holes in the wall here, Avenue, which was where the projector went, so you could show film through the room here. And no, we no longer ask people to run projectors. So thank you, that's a good point. But to me, the crucial point was, Meredith, the first thing that you identified there. Making sure that we are in step with the process, that we're gonna ask city HR, hey, will you post these positions for us? Will you recruit for us? Will you help us to retain? Will you help us to
And if
evaluate?
we've used their consultant, then they're going.
If we've used them and it's the same language that they're using internally, then it also helps us line up with their salary changes. Whereas if we do entirely our own thing, then it's harder later to ask for support for something that's not what they suggested that we do.
And the cost may be greater than 37,000.
If we had to go out,
Right.
We're riding the wave with. the
yes,
same.
yes.
We're
yeah.
getting a bargain, so to speak.
Well, I think if this is gonna make that all that easier, I would say, I would propose that we vote on the motion, but I don't know, does anyone feel if they want to table it to December?
I
I
think
don't-
we should go ahead and vote on it.
Yeah,
I agree. No, it's gonna.
I honestly don't think that we're gonna come up with anything new or restricting it would cause us not to vote for it.
No.
I'll let somebody else make the motion.
I move that the board authorize JMRL to expend up to 37,000 to participate in the city of Charlottesville contracted job description revision project from the library's operating cost in FY 24.
All those in favor? Any opposed? All right, carries, thank you. All good points, all good discussion, thank you. Right.
To the controversy, sign it.
So next up, potential first reading of policy 5.6, which is sign-in, and Mike having stepped out, we will deputize.
I think Kathy and I said we would tag team
Okay, good, thank you.
this. Your handouts though. Jump in whenever I say something wrong.
I'll pinch you.
Okay. Our handouts include the current policy 5.6, which has been under discussion by the board policy committee. That policy is very procedural. It has a lot of direct information about how staff should create and display signs. When I went looking across the state with our peer libraries, very few of them had any sort of signage policy about what staff would put up. It was mostly about what members of the public would be wanting to put up. And JMRL covers that in a different place. That's in our displays and handouts policy, which is not currently up for review. So the policy committee's decision was to rewrite this whole thing and to take the material that was largely for staff and turn that into a procedure, which is my job. That's up to me to come up with. The board doesn't have to vote on that, but it should support what the overall policy says. So staff have been having a lot of discussions about what those procedures need to be, what they should look like, you know, how closely they should align to the existing style manual that JMRL uses versus the freedom that staff have now using a tool called Canva, which every staff member has access to, and it can create a lot of really high quality graphical displays, basically, that we didn't have access to when this was written. So at any rate, that's too much information, basically, but the proposal here, the draft policy, it starts at the high level defining signs or temporary or permanent visual communications used by the library too. And then it kind of lists why the library would have anything posted inside on its walls. So promoting library events is the top one there, outlining library policies and procedures, providing directions to materials and facilities, meet legal or jurisdictional requirements. So sometimes there might be, you know, like a fire safety sign of some sort. Identify services and spaces within the facility, enhance the library experience through decorative effect. And then this is much condensed from the first one, but in general, signs represent statements by JMRL to the public. So signage should serve JMRL's mission and values. Logos or URLs on signs should be limited to JMRL or organizations and activities directly related to JMRL's mission and values. So we're thinking about, like, you know, they imagine at your library there, the poster on the wall behind us, it's not a JMRL produced thing. It's something that we got from another organization, either from the Virginia Library Association or the American Library Association. Generally, signs may only be posted by library staff, library partners, governmental partners, the Friends of the Libraries, or the Virginia Festival of the Book. Members of the public interested in posting information should refer to displays and handouts. Signs should be visually appealing and convey a positive and professional impression. Signage should be stylistically consistent with the library's branding. Signs may only be placed in designated areas at the discretion of the branch manager.
One type of.
Yeah.
That's for the book.
Yeah. Thank you. So this is a first reading of this. It'll be up for a vote in December, but Kathy and I can do our questions if anyone has any.
I think it's good to refer to the other policy so that people know that this is not, again, what the public can post. This is our internal policy for what appears at the library by staff.
David, one thing to chime in, this did go through both a managers meeting. So that as far as the managers weighing in on the policy aspect of it, I think we didn't get any substantive feedback for changes on the policy level. And it also went through legal review and it was approved by the JMRL's council had no concerns about it either. So just some background for some other layers that this has gone through.
The 2-hour limit for posting a sign seems 2-year limit of having a sign. Shouldn't it be reviewed more often than 2 years?
Is that one on the original? That's on the current policy, I think.
Yeah, that's on the old.
Is that, oh, that's the old one? Okay.
Yeah, not what's in red there, Alita.
Okay, okay.
So I think that's the type of thing that will become procedural. So we'll have some guidelines there. There are some things that are evergreen, you know, that aren't going to change. That, you know, there's an exit sign or there's the occupancy of this room. But in terms of the decorative things, I agree with you. 2 years is too long, although I know we've got some things that have been up for longer than that, some read posters that probably need to be swapped out. I agree with you that 2 years is too long for that, but it won't be addressed in this policy.
When they look a little gray, they need to come down.
Kayla Payne, our collections and technology manager, had a meeting with the CEO of Baker and Taylor the other day. It's the person in charge of all of Baker and Taylor, which is a large library vendor. And they met in a room at the Central Library and there was a read poster behind her. And he said, "Oh, I was just with Miss Winfrey at the National Book Awards." So I guess it lasts forever. Read. Still there.
Do signs are they dated?
The staff created signs are dated. So the ones that staff create have a little initial and date on them.
That's cool.
Posters that we would get wouldn't necessarily have that on.
But they could be, you know, like somebody could date it, you know, just with the ink,
Get on the
right?
back.
Yeah.
Could be dated, sure. Or we could just know that, hey, that's been up there. You know, that this needs to be changed every 6 months or whatever it is.
So we'll have a vote on this policy next month. Any questions about that? Great. Okay, brings us to the library director.
Okay, you all will hear more about this, those of you who can join Camille on a tour of the building this afternoon, but the drive-up window service at Gordon Avenue is finally ready to go, starting next Monday. The window was severely delayed, but was installed a few weeks ago, and they've got the workstation all set up, and they've got a schedule and things. It's a little bit different from the way that the Northside Libraries works. Northside is a separate pickup location, so when you're putting holds on the catalog, you need to select, I want to pick it up at the drive up instead of I want to pick it up inside Northside. Here, it's just going to be Gordon Avenue, so it gives a little bit more flexibility because the service desks are so close to each other that people, I'm envisioning, people will be able to show up like this afternoon, see that the parking lot is full, and just go through the drive-through and pick up their hold regardless of what. They just said, I want to get it at Gordon, and either way should be okay. So we're excited about it. We've got new staff that have started and they're training on it, and hopefully it'll be a popular service and we won't have traffic backed up into the main road here. Hours are slightly truncated from the overall hours of the building, so we will put out some messaging this week that says, check to make sure, because they're gonna have to close it earlier before the end of the day, and evenings they're not gonna have enough staff to keep it open, to have somebody sitting there. Are gonna try a little bell service, which Northside doesn't have, so at times that they can't have a person there that they're offering the service, people will be able to request it, and there's an intercom, they'll be able to hopefully run back and forth. We'll see. Kathy mentioned, our Green branch manager retired as of last week. Her last day was on Wednesday. The young adult services coordinator retired the end of last month. So we are hiring currently for that. I hope to be able to share some news soon for you all. Hopefully by the next board meeting, we'll have both of those positions filled. But at any rate, we'll have some more information then. To give an update and a big thank you to Brittany Eversberg on coordinating this year's food bank collections. Thank you, Brittany. So far, I've heard over 600 pounds of donations equaling 600 meals have been collected, but I also know there are quite a few barrels that have not been picked up yet. There's one upstairs here that's full that hasn't been picked up. And that also doesn't include the total yet from Louisa, from the Louisa Resource Council. They picked it up separately at the branch there last week. So very popular program. Thank you, Brittany. And finally, we have ordered the book vending kiosk for Nelly's Ford, Alita. So that has been ordered. It is being produced. It should be here in 2024. We're looking at February-ish, March-ish for that. So we'll need to do a little bit of work to make sure that power and data and things are ready there. But it's going to be at the Nelly's Ford Shopping Center in the little corner right next to the ABC store. It's convenient. But this is a big undertaking that has been funded by Crow Nelson Library. They paid for the machine, but it's going to take some work from staff to get it all working. But we're excited to see how this goes. If it works like gangbusters, I'm sure I'll come back to the board to talk about how to use this in other locations, other ABC stores.
Is that gonna be an added stop for the book?
No, the bookmobile goes to the Rockfish Valley Community Center and the ski barn. Is that right, Alita?
Yes.
So it's like a couple miles on either side of that. The kiosk will be standalone.
So who's gonna supply the kiosks?
Who's gonna fill it with books? Yeah, the Nelson Memorial staff are gonna be filling it out as part of their Thursdays. They designate staff to do outreach, and that'll be part of the outreach duties. So they'll be taking the new Nelson outreach vehicle over there on their way to do other things and filling it up every week. Yeah, and collecting. We're also gonna accept returns there. So they'll have to collect that and that
Once a week.
that I'm a little concerned about. We're gonna have to see, that might have to be more frequent. Like in Louisa, there's a book return in the town of Louisa, and Ophelia checks it every day during the week. So we'll have to see how much capacity there is in Nelly's Ford. If need be, then we can settle some other way to go get the books there.
That's a ways between Nelly's Ford and
Livingston,
Livingston.
yeah, it is quite.
especially in the winter.
It's a half an hour drive.
Yeah.
As with everything in the
Snow.
winter, right? It depends on the weather. It's weather
Yeah.
contingent. I'm sure there will be some Fridays where the bookmobile won't be able to run anyway. Exactly. And that's all I have to report, Tony.
Thank you. Other matters?
You know what the status is on the repair of the lockers at Louisa? Out of curiosity?
Did you hear what the problem was there?
No, I just know that I had a book because you had
Yeah.
given me an assignment
To use the locker.
and the locker broke.
The locker in Louisa, how to politely say it, locker in Louisa has had some uninvited guests inside. It had a small critter infestation that chewed through some wiring and took it out of
Service.
so we're currently awaiting some parts to repair it. And then we're looking at trying to seal every hole. This is not the first one we had. We had a snake in the one in Nelson. They're like a nice warm place to be. So Kayla and the IT staff are currently sealing any gaps that they can, but for any of you all who have lived anywhere that's older than 10 years old, that's an impossible task. So I don't have an ETA, but hopefully very soon.
I was just curious.
Thank you
So
for
I
trying
wasn't able to do my.
to do your homework.
She would like to say that, like, the mouse ate her homework.
I mean, that's a good point, Kathy. Would you rather open it up and have a snake there?
No. I take a spider over a snake.
I'll check on that, though. I'll ask Kayla if they have an ETA and send it back out to you. Thanks, Brandy.
That was a good one. That's, it's right up.
They do that in cars too, for people.
Squirrels do a number.
It's either squirrels or some other rodent are in there.
Let's go with squirrels.
Squirrels are cuter version.
All right, other matters. Talk about the agenda for our December meeting, which a reminder is a week early due to Christmas.
December 18th,
And it's going to be at
north side.
library. Okay. We'll have a vote, I hope, on policy 5.6.
And is there a policy meeting?
Yeah, there'll be a policy meeting before that.
Meeting. Okay.
So there'll be a report.
Other committee reports, David?
Hopefully we'll have a central
Yeah, we'll have.
beneficial meeting.
Okay, working group.
Mhm. You're not meeting.
No, we won't have anything to report till
Okay, and personnel and budget. are done,
February
basically,
or.
for the year.
We're gonna have a smaller subcommittee meeting, so we
And then-
might have a few things to share, but
But probably.
I'm not expecting it. Yeah,
I think we want to take it back to the full committee.
yeah, agreed.
You'll have some form of trustee continuing education.
Well, I'd like to do the survey results
Thank you.
from the 5-year plan,
Good
so we could, it's not really a continuing education, it's really just, boards matters that they need to be aware of, but maybe we could use that time
I think it's a great idea.
to do that.
Highlights, all right. Anything else? May I have a motion to adjourn? All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, I get to use the.
Thank you all.
Everybody now.
Thanks for doing it, Natalie.
Bye.